Our top story, where did it originate? That is the question police are asking tonight after yet more potential social media threats against Adams County school districts. Camp Point Central and Mendon Unity school districts had heightened security today, and both Quincy Senior High and Junior High schools had additional security measures in place as well. The Adams County Sheriff's Office has deputies in each of those communities, along with school resource officers. And WGEM's Zeke Shapiro is live at Quincy Junior High School right now to explain how these threats can land someone on the wrong side of the law.
The threats this morning were deemed not credible, and classes went on as normal for the students and the staff. But in the meantime, law enforcement officers are looking into who is behind these threats.
Hoax school threats are becoming a serious problem. It seems like every day, police are alerted to a social media post alluding to a threat against a school. Across schools in Adams County, it is becoming a regular occurrence, and law enforcement is facing an uphill battle in trying to find the people posting these threats.
It was reported by an individual student. We traced it back to several other students that shared that post. They're not the originator of the post, we're only able to go back so far. We don't know who created that picture.
The problem with screenshots from apps like Snapchat is there is no way of knowing where or when the post was created. However, if someone is caught, the consequences are severe. According to a report on hoax threats by the FBI office in Springfield, Illinois, perpetrators of hoax threats can be sentenced up to 5 years in federal prison. While some might think it's funny to post a fake threat, police want to make it clear that they take all threats seriously.
This is not a game, and I understand that, especially if it's a student, they may think this is funny and they like seeing the reaction from everybody. And I think law enforcement across the board will take a zero tolerance policy.
First Assistant State Attorney Todd Eiler explains the age of the person who spreads threats of any kind will be prosecuted to the very fullest extent of the law.
Chief Deputy Frazier explained that there is the possibility that some of these threats came from a different country. That is because on the list of schools that were on the threat, some of them simply don't exist anymore. There was also a theory thrown around that these threats could have been made by artificial intelligence. Live in Quincy, Zeke Shapiro, WGEM News.
Thank you, Zeke. Now, while he did not give any specifics, an Adams County Chief Deputy says that schools also have their own protocol to deal with for students who make those school threats. Changes have been made for QHS's homecoming pep rally and football game. All pep rally spectators are supposed to enter through Baldwin's main doors. No bags will be allowed into the gym or Flynn Stadium unless medically necessary. If it is, that bag must be searched. Students 6th grade and younger must be accompanied by an adult to enter Flynn Stadium, and you can read much more about these policy changes on our website right now at WGEM.com.